Using Harvard Business Review.org, HBR.org, more efficiently, it serves the purpose with an inbuilt AI called AI-beta. The purpose for me using this tool was to uncover what articles does HBR contain specific to a certain topic or keyword or a set of keywords or phrase. I am interested to learn more about sustainable agriculture and how business and technology come together to achieve this. So I went ahead to the AI tool offering by hbr.org, and that's what I searched. What are the articles here that cover sustainable agriculture? Two of the articles cover sustainable agriculture practices, making small farms more sustainable and profitable, discusses an initiative called Better Life Farming that helps smallholder farmers adopt more sustainable and commercially viable farming methods. It describes how the program provides training, access to financing, and connections to supply chains to enable higher yields with lower environmental impacts. Second article is the sustainable economy. It touches on the importance of sustainable agriculture practices as part of a broader discussion on valuing ecosystem services and internalizing environmental costs. It mentions examples like General Mills helping broccoli farmers switch to more water efficient irrigation and the need for agriculture to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The other article, the top sustainability stories of 2019, does not directly cover sustainable agriculture but discusses the growth of plant based meat alternatives and the concept of regenerative agriculture as an emerging solution. And it provides links to each of these articles below the answer itself, so it's quite convenient. Harvard Business Review, Business and Society, Making Small Farms More Sustainable and Profitable by Lino Miguel Diaz, Robert S. Kaplan, and Harmanpreet Singh, August 24, 2021. Summary: smallholder farms provide a large proportion of food supply in developing economies, but 40% of these farmers live on less than USD 2 per day. With a rapidly growing global population, it is imperative to improve the productivity and security of farms. Security of farmers making up this sector. This article presents the results of better life farming, an ecosystem that connects smallholder farmers in India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh to the capabilities, products, and services of corporations and NGOs. More than 2 billion people currently live on about 550 million small farms, with 40% of them on incomes of less than $2 per day. Despite high rates of poverty and malnutrition, these smallholders produce food for more than 50% of the population in low and middle income countries, and they have to be part of any solution for achieving the 50% higher food production required to feed the world's projected 2050 population of nearly 10 billion people. At present, these smallholders are trapped in a negative cycle that damages both themselves and the planet. They are vulnerable to adverse weather incidents and water scarcity, have limited access and low bargaining power with purchasers of their output, and incur high crop losses estimated at 28% of their production during on farm growing and post harvest storage. In order to increase in order to increase their meager incomes, they cut down on trees to access more land. But this deforestation reduces the planet's capacity for absorbing carbon gases from the atmosphere, releases carbon gases when the felled trees rot or burn, and adds new greenhouse gas GHG emissions from the additional livestock and crops on the deforested land. Scientists have estimated that 10 to 15% of global carbon dioxide emissions can be traced to this deforestation. The global community and its businesses have every incentive to help smallholders improve their productivity, escape poverty, and end destructive agricultural practices. Companies can help break this cycle through profitable and inclusive strategies that enable smallholders to lift themselves out of poverty by improving farming and business practices. Bayer, a global life science company, has been working with the World Bank's International Finance Corporation (IFC), Netafim, a global supplier of irrigation solutions, and more than 20 local partners at a country level to form the Better Life Farming (BLF) multi-stakeholder alliance. The alliance offers last mile delivery solutions to help smallholder farmers become sustainable and commercially viable suppliers of agricultural products. Local ecosystems, locally managed. BLF creates local ecosystems of private and public partners offering comprehensive and accessible services to smallholders. These products and services include education and training, access to credit and insurance, and supplies of seeds, fertilizers, crop protection, irrigation, and farming equipment. The ecosystem also engages smallholders with downstream customers, including local aggregators, distributors, and off-taking corporations, and capacity building partners such as IFC, development financial institutions, NGOs, and local farmer organizations. The novel component in a BLF ecosystem is a Better Life Farming Center that connects up to 500 small and previously fragmented and isolated smallholder farmers in a region to the capabilities, products, and services of corporations and NGOs. Each center is owned and operated by an agri entrepreneur under an agreement with BLF. The agri entrepreneur, typically a farmer from the community or a young graduate, receives training in modern agricultural practices and business at a BLF academy. Assisted by a BLF agri consultant, and agri entrepreneur then develops a model farm where local farmers are trained in effective, efficient, and sustainable agronomic and irrigation practices. The education and training enable these smallholders to operate with lower environmental footprints while becoming higher quality and higher yield producers. The agri entrepreneur works with a The agri-entrepreneur works with local BLF partners to improve farmers' financial literacy, provide financing and insurance services, offer integrated access to supplies of efficient irrigation equipment, seeds, fertilizers, and crop protection, and downstream connections to regional aggregators, distributors, markets, and corporate supply chains. In short, the BLF Center becomes the center of a new ecosystem of education, training, financing, supplier, and distribution services for smallholders. The BLF centers pay special attention to unlock previously untapped business potential by supporting women smallholders and creating more opportunities for women both in the roles of agri consultants and agri entrepreneurs, making a tangible difference. BLF did its first proof of concept in 2016, working with 20 smallholder farmers of green chili from 20 different villages around Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, India. The farmers' chili yields tripled from 7.8 metric ton per acre in 2016 to 22.7 metric ton per acre in 2020. Their net income increased from around US 600 in 2016 to US 3,300 in 2020. As BLF expanded its range of agricultural products to tomato, corn, and paddy, smallholder farmers in different states across India achieved similar productivity gains. India Better Life Farming Outcomes. In 2016, Better Life Farming, a multi stakeholder alliance, began working with smallholder farmers of a range of agricultural products in villages around Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, India, and they saw an increase in productivity gains. The alliance offers last mile delivery solutions to help smallholder farmers become sustainable, commercially viable suppliers of agricultural products. India Better Life Farming Model Outcomes. As of July 2021, BLF had established 900 BLF centers in India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh, reaching more than 300,000 smallholder farmers with products and services from 29 different partner organizations. The agri entrepreneur owners of the BLF centers, almost 10% of them women, earned an average of 2,000 American dollar in their first year of operation, double the country's rural household average income. This amount is expected to increase over time to American dollar 5,500 in year 2 and American dollar 10,900 in year 3. As the BLF center becomes more established, expands to more farmers, and supports a broader portfolio of product and service offerings, reducing environmental damage. Training programs held at the BLF centers on the correct and efficient use of fertilizers and crop protection products have enabled farmers to reduce the quantity of these inputs and associated environmental damage from incorrect usage. The centers taught farmers how to lower food spoilage and wastage through better linkages to aggregators and distributors, and by improved local disposal of waste that did occur. The centers helped interested farmers introduce micro irrigation systems and better water management practices to enable optimal utilization of scarce water supplies in future projects. BLF expects to further promote water efficient farming and reduce GHG emissions, especially the high methane emissions from traditionally tilled rice fields, helping out in a crisis. The close ties and continuous support the BLF centers provide to rural farming communities provide especially helpful during the proved the close ties and continuous support the BLF centers provide to rural farming communities proved especially helpful during the COVID-19 pandemic. The centers instantly adopted heightened safety norms and educated farmers on hygiene concepts. With help from their regional partners, they help maintain farmers' incomes and assure local food supply during the crisis. As part of a global COVID-19 response program supported by local governments, the centers distributed thousands of kits to subsistence farmers, which contained a combination of free commercial samples of high quality hybrid seeds and crop protection products, along with face masks and personal protective equipment. By end of 2021, BLF will have more than 1,000 BLF centers operating in India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh, reaching more than 800,000 farmers. The increased scale will enable new partners to be introduced into the BLF Alliance to extend BLF center service offerings to include village level health and nutritional support. New BLF pilot programs are scheduled to be introduced in other Asian countries plus countries in Africa and Latin America. Better Life Farming provides a vivid case study about how a company can create win-win inclusive growth ecosystems encompassing rural communities, local governments, and agri-business companies. BLF centers enable smallholders in rural farming communities to increase high quality agricultural production with much lower ecological footprints. The inclusive growth BLF ecosystem increases profits for rural smallholder farmers and their private partners while directly supporting the first two United Nations Sustainable Development Goals SDG to eliminate poverty in all its forms everywhere and to end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, achieve food security and improved nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. The authors Lino Miguel Diaz is Vice President Smallholder Farming in the Crop Science Division at Bayer AG, a global pharmaceuticals and life sciences company based in Germany, and invited professor at University of Lisbon, Portugal. Robert S. Kaplan is a senior fellow and the Marvin Bauer Professor of Leadership Development Emeritus at Harvard Business School. He co-authored the McKinsey Award-winning HBR article, Accounting for Climate Change, November-December 2021. Harmanpreet Singh is Smallholder Partnerships Lead. Harmanpreet Singh is Smallholder Partnerships Lead for the Asia Pacific region at Bayer AG, a global pharmaceutical and life sciences company. Harvard Business Review, Finance and Investing, The Sustainable Economy by Bjorn Chouinard, Jib Ellison, and Rick Ridgway from the magazine October 2011. Summary: reprint R1110B, like most holy grails, sustainability as a firm's most dependable route to financial high performance has seemed a goal always beyond reach. The problem is simple. Businesses are rarely obliged to pay for the full toll their operations take on the world because many of these impacts have been hard to gauge with any precision or to assign to individual businesses with fairness. Their costs have remained external to businesses accounting. That means it's generally cheaper for consumers to buy a product that has a worse impact on the environment than the equivalent product that does less harm. But what if we could get to the point where the lowest priced t shirt was also the one doing the least harm to the planet and society. Three trends, each gathering force on its own, are now converging to make that goal a reality. First, the values of many vital natural resources traditionally considered priceless are being quantified so that they can be factored into economic equations and individual firms' accounting. Second, socially responsible investing has matured beyond negative screening to become a value seeking discipline, generating positive impetus for change. Third, industries are converging on standard indices for rating products' sustainability and seeking improvements throughout their value chains. Patagonia's Juan Chouinard and Rick Ridgway team up with sustainability consultant Jib Ellison to explain those trends and how their convergence is driving a new era in sustainability. According to the authors, progress in each area spurs progress in the others. To the extent that the long sought alignment of a firm's prosperity with the best interests of the planet seems not only possible but inevitable.
Welcome to the HBR IdeaCast from Harvard Business Review. I'm Sarah Green. With the economy seemingly stuck in this endless soft patch, I think the last thing a lot of business people want to deal with is sustainability. But there are a number of trends converging right now that indicate that business leaders may no longer have a choice. But the good news is that these trends, if you understand them and if you take advantage of them, might just actually leave you better off. I'm talking today with Jib Ellison, founder of the consulting firm Blue Sky and co-author of our Big Idea article in October, The Sustainable Economy. Jib, thanks so much for talking with us. To get started understanding these converging trends, and I understand from the piece that there are three, I'd actually like to start with one of the more startling data points in the piece, that the planet's natural resources, all the forests, all the rivers, all the grazing lands, the oil, the ocean, everything, is worth an estimated $44 trillion. How can something like that even be estimated? Why would someone even try to measure it?
Well, it's a great question, Sarah. The big point is that there are a number of resources, putting a price on the priceless, one could call it, that need to be accounted for in an economy at some point. If there's no price put on these things, ultimately they're not valued. And for the first time in history, we are acknowledging that there are true costs associated with these seemingly priceless things, and that if we don't get a handle on what those true costs are and ultimately figure out how to internalize them, that we will not have a sustainable economy for the long haul.
Okay, so that's trend number one, and that's sort of more on the accounting, getting a complete balance sheet side. Trend number two has to do also with numbers, but it's a different kind of numbers. It's the way that investors are reacting to some of this information. But as you point out in the piece, when investors are sort of making their decisions about which companies to invest in, there's a competitive disadvantage that arises if you're doing the right thing and all your competitors are doing the wrong thing. It's kind of like baseball on steroids, right? If everyone's doing it, if you want to be in the game, it can feel like you have to do it too. So how are investors learning to sort of cut through this and pick the companies that are, say, doing better for the environment while the other companies out there are still sort of hiding costs?
Well, the simple idea is the following. Businesses that are actively attending to these, let's just call them true costs, are A, being managed better. So the level of sophistication that a CEO and a CEO's team needs to have to the overall unintended impacts of their entire value chains is quite sophisticated. And the places where it starts to become material is in long-term business risk management. So try and extrapolate that kind of thinking to a variety of value chains in the 21st century, where we're moving to, by 2050, 9 billion people and an average higher per capita GDP globally. What this all means is there's going to be more and more economic activity. If there's more and more economic activity, then you've got greater and greater pressure on ecosystems, on natural resources, and there's going to be greater and greater pressure, both politically and socially, for someone to account for those costs. So, again, it all goes back to the sophisticated investors today, and the fund managers are actually looking for who is actively managing these sorts of things today so that they're lowering their risk tomorrow.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about a more complete kind of accounting, and we've now talked about a more sophisticated side of investing. But the third trend that's converging here that you hinted at in your previous answer is the consumer side, and labeling and helping consumers make better choices and transparency in the value chain. And I think that sounds like a mouthful, but this is something that any of our listeners, I think, have probably run into at the grocery store when they're trying to pick the fair trade coffee versus the organic coffee, or the free-range eggs versus the cage-free eggs. Any kind of labeling for sustainably produced products has gotten really complicated. But I understand from your piece that that's actually changing.
Well, there's a couple different things. One is today there is a Babylon of labeling going on, which makes it very, very difficult to understand, if you will, what is materially better from what is not materially better. And it's estimated that there are literally thousands of labels in the world today. Many are localized geographically, but it makes it very difficult to make a decision. What the trend is things like the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and the Sustainability Consortium is groups of companies within industries coming together and creating voluntarily a set of standards from the point of extraction all the way through the point of use, and they are going to create an apples for apples standard set of measures, which first will allow designers within companies to make better decisions and to rate those decisions relative to others. So in other words, a T-shirt that I'm designing, I will be able to go in and use the system to know that the cotton that I'm getting from Uzbekistan is far worse than the cotton I'm getting from Turkey. And so at first it's going to be used internally to make better decisions. Ultimately, however, once you've got the system up and running and you've got all the industry using it, it becomes the data platform upon which a actual consumer-facing conversation or label could happen.
So we have these three macro trends coming together. In the end, they all sort of do affect each other and inflect each other. So what do they all add up to? What does this mean for business going forward?
Well, the basic idea is this. Between the ecosystem service valuation, the valuing of nature that's going on by academic institutions and NGOs, that is going to come together and begin to inform these value chain indexes, these product-based assessments. Today, these are very separate undertakings. In the near future, they are going to begin to inform them. When that happens, these value chain indexes will become extremely robust. You're going to be able to actually say, T-shirt A costs $3 in the store. However, T-shirt A costs to the planet $10. T-shirt B costs $3. However, because of its footprint, it actually only costs $6 to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you have that capability, you now have, in a sense, an accounting system, a GAAP for the planet, that will allow, again, business and business decisions that are going to be very, very differently oriented than they are today. And as soon as you now have, if you will, a better access, a better set of information that's going to give investors a higher likelihood of better returns, and this is already happening today, by the way. The Domini Index has 20 years of better returns than the S&P 500, which it is indexed against, using, let's just call it version 1.0 of these kinds of ideas. So as you get more and more sophisticated, globalized information that is more and more accurate, you're only going to be able to, make better investments. As soon as that happens, now we have 1 out of every $8 invested in sustainably responsible investment funds, SRI funds. That will increase exponentially and will happen very fast. And then we will be in what we're calling Sustainability 3.0, the time in which consuming and consumers are driving truly better and better practices.
Now, okay, that sounds really exciting, and I'm all aboard, but I just want to introduce sort of the note of the skeptic here because, okay, you're in California, I'm here in Harvard, and this is the kind of thing that we get really excited about. But I was at a conference a few months ago now, and I actually met a guy who works in the cotton industry, and he just wasn't buying it at all. He was not convinced, first of all, that global warming was even an issue, even though I was really surprised by that, actually. I'm like, your main product grows right out of the ground. How can you not be following this? But he was not convinced that there was a sense of urgency or that the market was changing here at all. So what do you say to a skeptic like that who should care, who's in this industry, but who just doesn't see it?
Well, there is an inevitability to these trends, driven largely by population growth and GDP growth. In order for things to stay the same, meaning our consumer society to basically keep going, that the next generation has a life and a set of opportunities that is as good or better than it is today, everything must change. And so, quite frankly, this isn't a moral conversation or a political conversation. It is a biophysical reality conversation. And, whether this happens in 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years, these things will come to pass, because otherwise we will continue to externalize costs. They will build up. People will not be excited about it. There will be losers who are paying those costs for winners who are winning upstream, and they're not going to like it very much. An interesting statistic is, of the many tens of thousands, it may even be upwards of 100,000 recorded incidences in China of civil unrest 3 years ago. 80% of those, now this is the Chinese government's own statistics, were driven by environmental degradation, environmental issues. So in a country in which it's really not a normal thing to publicly protest, you've got to understand that there comes a point at which people, if they don't have water to drink, they don't have clean air to breathe, there is a clear set of sicknesses and health issues associated with bad environmental situations, they're going to get upset. And the same is true for businesses. So, to your skeptic, I say it doesn't really matter whether you believe it or not. If you're not at least looking into this, if you're not at least beginning to understand where are the key points of externalized costs in your value chain, then you're setting yourself up for a problem either on the regulatory side, because someday it will probably be regulated, or on the Facebook side. Somebody's going to find out, and they're not going to like it, and they're going to post it. And in either scenario, you're behind the curve. So why wouldn't you get ahead, understand, and then hopefully you can begin to see how human innovation can both cut out the true cost and today's cost. Those are the companies that are already winning today, and those are the companies that are going to win tomorrow.
Well, I think that's great advice for any company. Jib, thanks so much for taking the time to work through some of these huge trends and questions with us today.
You're welcome.
That was Blue Sky's Jib Ellison. For more, visit hbr.org.